So a question I get a lot is how do I get inventory for my website without having a distributor? So we're going to talk about that a little bit today, and also just me kind of talking with others that they can't really find Pokemon cards at a good price either. I know that anybody can go on TCG Player or eBay and buy it off there for market plus taxes and shipping, which essentially puts you at like 110 to 115% of market price. So yeah, we're going to talk about other ways to get Pokemon and basically avoiding market and eBay and all of that stuff. So I'm kind of going to start off with how I started, where I'm kind of pivoting and what I do now, if that makes sense. So the very first bit of inventory I got back in February of 2025 when I first started my store was basically most of my own sealed investments, my own sealed collection, and then a ton of Japanese product. I was importing all of the Japanese stuff from Japan myself. I followed pretty much everybody else's advice. Go hit up a bunch of people on Instagram. Once one of them replies, pretty much work with them. Use PayPal goods and services for your first time, or 2 or 3 or whatever, and then go to Wise. That way you still have all those fees and all that stuff. And at that time there was no tariffs, so it was a little bit cheaper. I actually ended up getting screwed over by them at one point, but that's a topic for another video, but I already talked about that a whole lot. I really didn't want to sell any of my sealed stuff that came out of my collection or investment, so I was trying to sell the lower tiered stuff like loose packs, sleeves, stuff like that, and lo and behold, nobody else wanted that stuff either. Go figure. Took me a little while to figure that out. So I basically just sold Japanese, and also lo and behold, everybody and their grandmother sells Japanese Pokemon cards now. So it's pretty hard to do unless you already have a following or you're already known for selling Japanese Pokemon cards. So that was kind of hard to do. Pretty much struggled pretty hard for probably the first 6 to 9 months with that. And if I didn't sell them locally, meaning the Japanese stuff, most of the time they didn't sell on the website. I did not sell a whole lot. Very unsuccessful store selling Japanese. So then tariffs came, that put a damper in things. Costs went up a ton. Profit margins basically stayed the same because you just pass that on to the consumer. So yeah, basically the first 9 months of my store, I didn't do a very good job of anything. Losing strategy there for sure, but that is the right way to do things. If you want to sell off your PC or sealed collection or investments, just sell it all. Don't do just the junk stuff because nobody's going to want it. People are going to go to your store and be like, oh, he only has Brilliant Star sleeves. Nobody wants that. Or he only has Japanese booster packs. Nobody wants that. Everybody knows they're searchable right now, and you don't have any sales history or anything to prove that you're not a dirtball. So I understand that, but selling Japanese as well, nobody's willing to really take a risk on you because A, you're pretty close to the same price as everybody else, and B, you're nobody again, so they don't know if you're resealing the boxes, they don't know if you got your boxes legit, etc. So yeah, it was just a rough time. And to be fair, as of May of 2026, selling Japanese Pokemon cards are dead. Why, you may ask? Well, that's because cards from Japan are more expensive than I can just buy Japanese Pokemon from another store, sit on them for a couple weeks, and then resell them that way, which I have done a little bit, just churning the booster boxes over as soon as I grab them and stuff like that. You can call it price collusion or whatever you want, but basically all of Japan's, I don't want to know if you want to call them resellers or they're not really distributors. I guess you could just call them resellers or suppliers. Basically, if there's a box that sells for $100 in the US, that's here, they up their price to $120, and then you got to pay 10% tariffs, shipping fees, collection fees, money transfer fees, all sorts of stuff on top of it. So it ends up being like another 20% on top of that. And I mean, that's just a blatant, obvious losing business model. You can't be doing that. So selling Japanese for, at least now, May of 2026, is pretty much dead unless you already had it or you have a connection that has it and they're selling it to you at a discount, essentially. Also, in a general market, Japanese has super low margins where you're probably only going to make $5 a box, around that, and then it dumps really fast. So if you try to pre-order it, you already lost out. You need to wait until it releases, buy it, and then resell it from there going forward, and hope you can actually market it and sell it and move it quickly. So about 6 to 9 months into my journey, so this is still in 2025, I was scrounging Facebook Marketplace to find deals essentially on English Pokemon cards, bringing that to the website. I was looking for more places to put my Pokemon money for investments because, my business wasn't really doing a whole lot then. So it was like, well, I have the money. I want to put it into Pokemon anyway. I'll just buy it as an investment. No worries. I met a guy on there who gave me pretty good deals on like Destined Rivals and some prismatic SPCs and stuff like that. And it turns out he had Distro. Me and him are pretty decent buddies at this point. I basically hit him up every time there's a new set release or a reprint or whatever, or he'll hit me up and be like, yo bro, I got XYZ, you can have it at whatever price, and then we'll negotiate a little bit if I think he's a little pricey, etc. Now, with that, it's been a great relationship between me and him, no complaints. Sometimes I have to buy some of his junk stuff. See my collection box video I posted, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks ago. But even when I get stuff like that, I get stuff at a good enough price that I can usually move it locally, so I don't have to worry about, shipping a big Blooming Waters box or something like that, just because who wants to pay $30 to ship something like that? Nobody does. And customers aren't going to pay for that. So it just doesn't make any sense. But in order for me to keep getting good stuff, I have to take a lot of bad stuff as well. I also had to buy a bunch of crappy perfect order, and nobody wanted those for MSRP, so I ended up selling them on TCG Player, and they all sold on TCG Player for more than MSRP after fees, so that just made sense to me. The only issue, another issue is I don't get a ton of stuff from him. Everything's usually from half a case to like a case and a half, so that still leaves me needing more product. So I also have another guy I met on Facebook through Facebook groups. Cool guy. I don't know if he's a bot or a scalper or whatever, but he gives me a little bit of trickle product, each week or 2 weeks. He's like, hey, I got 4 Ascended ETBs. I have 4 first partnered boxes. I have 8 Ascended bundles, something along those lines. And, I'll grab those. He gives me a decent price. I send him money. It gets to me in about a week and a half. And, I have enough margin where I can sell that. And by the time it gets to me, it goes up, 10, 15%, just because of how crazy of a market we're in. Maybe I got lucky because I met 2 guys who they kind of understand, hey, build a relationship, build a rapport, and then they don't really have to do all this effort in dealing with the idiots on Facebook and stuff like that, because a lot of them just want to waste your time. They want everything for nothing. And it's like, they'll hit me up, they'll be like, hey, I want $100 for this box. And if I'm like, I could probably sell it for 110, deal, here's $100. Or if I'm like, I might only get 100, or I might only get 105, I'll be like, how's 90? And then they're like, okay, you've bought thousands of dollars from me already, makes sense. We have that relationship, we have that rapport, like we're good. And to be fair, I think I just got really, really lucky because Facebook, like I said earlier, Facebook Marketplace is full of idiots, scammers, and people that just want everything for 70% or rip you off essentially. And most of the time it's just not worth your time. It's really just not worth your time at all. I guess there's 2 issues with this guy is he doesn't disclose if there's damaged products. So like the first partners box you saw me rip, that was from him. It was the box was just torn open, and I didn't really want to take pictures and try to post that on my website as damaged product or anything like that. So I was like, screw it, I'll just open it, no big deal. And again, I don't get a lot of product from him either. Even if you combine the 2 of them, it's still not a lot of product. So again, most of the time, just avoid Facebook. I just got lucky with those 2. Maybe you can too if you put enough hours searching, looking, and build a rapport with somebody where they'll just keep hitting you up to sell stuff. Maybe that works out for you too. Who knows? So there's also wholesale groups. I do currently use a wholesale group. Most of these are not worth it in my opinion because you're buying a monthly membership essentially. It could be $10, it could be $25, $50, $100, who knows? And they're just selling at market price anyway. Granted, they'll have some sealed cases and stuff, but you're paying a monthly membership just to buy at market price anyway. It really doesn't make any sense. And then once they sell out, they're out. They have nothing to sell you, and now you're just like twiddling your thumbs and you're still paying that monthly membership. At least that's how I view it. I think I got lucky. I'm in a decent wholesaling group where sometimes I can find stuff at 80 to 90%, and then I middleman them. That's why I started middlemanning cases. If I can make $50 off a case or $100 off a case, that's worth it for me to place the order, wait for it to ship to me, verify contents, and then ship it back out, worth my time. I don't have to do a whole lot, just place an order, verify, reship, gone. To me, that's worth it. That's helping me build more rapport with other people, and that's helping more people know what my business is, who I am, and know like maxpacks.com essentially. The only issue with that is the shipping speed is relatively slow. However, as long as the guy I'm middlemanning to or female I'm middlemanning to understands that ahead of time and they're okay, I haven't really had any issues with that. And I would say it's working out well because I think I've only been in there a month or two and I've made enough money to pay for the whole year middlemanning cases. Yeah, I definitely think that's profitable for me and the wholesaler, obviously, otherwise he wouldn't be offering it. So if you're interested in sealed cases, I go through what the wholesaler has and I kind of decide, okay, this is a decent deal, market's $2,000, he's asking 18, I can sell it for 19 or 19.25 shipped, and I make a little bit of money. Well, the wholesaler makes a little bit of money, I make a little bit of money, the end user gets a discount to market, and if he wants to make $100 by the time it gets to him, it's probably gone up another $100. So he's gonna make a little bit of money, or she, whoever the end user is going to make a little bit of money as well. Unless, they just crack open all the packs or they just throw it in the closet, in which case they'll win indefinitely more than all of the rest of us because sealed product only goes up. If you are interested in sealed cases, join the Discord. There is a link in the description below the video, and we have a thread in the Discord group where I basically update prices, and you can always just DM me to ask, hey, what's available? What's a decent deal? That's usually how I explain it is, hey, these are the decent deals, blah, 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 blah. This is the price shipped. That's it. I believe I heard Retro say that I don't need all of the money all of the time. I just need some of the money all of the time. So go ahead and give Retro a follow here on YouTube. I've been watching a lot of his content. I think he's pretty good. But that's pretty much the case of why I started middlemanning. That's pretty much the reason I started middlemanning sealed cases is because, I can make that little $100 or $50 in between, and I don't need the whole profit. I just need that little bit and then leave room for the next guy. And if that guy can make some money off of me, I can make some money off the wholesaler. We're all, happy, we're all in agreement, and then, that guy's gonna come back to me to buy more sealed cases, and I'm gonna keep buying from the wholesaler, and it's a very lucrative and happy partnership for all of us involved. So how do I get product now? It's May 2026. I would say it's a mix of ways, as I've mentioned earlier. I barely order anything from Japan right now, Japanese Pokemon wise. I believe I got Ninja Spinner at a decent price. I got a reprint of Make a Dream at a good price, and the Hiroshima boxes that they reprinted, those PC exclusives, it's like the Pikachu promo. I got a bunch of those, and that's pretty much it. I want to say I'll probably get Pitch Black when it comes out, Abyss Eye, because that's usually the only time they have good pricing on these sets, and then they just jack it sky high. So barely or hardly ordering from Japan anymore. I have mostly bought some of my recent Japanese stuff from other US sellers and just flipped it, or I just stayed away. I would say I buy from my buddy that has Distro, the Facebook Connect, and a mix of some botters and scalpers, whoever has a decent price that has some product. I'm not really looking for one or two because creating SKUs is just a nightmare. Not really a nightmare, but it's time consuming and boring, and I'd just rather not do it, to be fair. But if they have a little bit of bulk, essentially, if they got 5 of something, or sometimes if it's 3, if it's a little bit more pricier, I think it's gonna move slow, I'll still take it, but they have to give me a decent enough price where I'm comfortable doing that. And of course, these are always like pre-vetted people that are already deemed legit by others. They have vouchers and references. I would never buy from people that have no references or have bad references, just because at the end of the day, it'll fall on me for if it's resealed product or fake product, it falls on me, and then I have to refund people, and then I lose all the profits or all the money, and I lose my capital. So I'd rather not take that risk, only shop with people that are basically pre-vetted. Then I would say my final way is the wholesale group. I haven't ordered a ton from the wholesale group, just enough that I could pass the case on to somebody else. And yeah, there's plenty of them out there. You just got to find the right one that works for you. And doesn't overcharge you, and you can, like I was talking about earlier, make a little bit off of them, and they make a little bit off of you, and then, take some of the money all of the time, not all of the money, some of the time. So hopefully, as we wrap up this video, that has given you some ethical ways to source product for your store, website, or just to feed your ripping addiction. You can always shop from my website below. There's a link in the description of the video. Make sure you check that out, maxpacks.com. Or, you can always just camp at your Walmart or Target for 8 hours, push kids out of the way, get your 2 Ascended Heroes ETBs, make your $150 profit method. I would argue you're better off just getting a job and working your W-2, probably make more money, build a career. Everybody would like you better. But yeah, helpful links in the description. As we said earlier, shop the site, join the email list, join the Discord, and I'll see y'all in my next video.